Hi everybody, it's April and I am back from relaxing on the holidays. I hope everybody had good holidays. I know that a lot of people have probably gotten new machines for Christmas, and I wanted to put together a few quick videos going over, okay, what do I do now? So I thought that I would start with the Silhouette Studio. And again, I do have the business edition, but what I'm going to go over you can find in your basic edition as well, and they are set up similarly. There will just be some buttons that I have that you don't have. So you have this blank canvas and you want to make something. So the first thing you're going to do is you're either going to design it yourself, which is probably not what is not going to be the first thing that a person with a new machine is going to do. So we're going to go to our library, and the library icon is in the upper right hand corner, and this of course is assuming that you do have some images in your library. If you don't, there's another way you can get images onto your mat, and I will go over that as well. So let's see, what do I want to cut out? Let's look for a heart. Alright, I'm liking this hearts. So you can do a search in this menu bar across the top, and it will bring up all the images that you have that have a heart in it. Whatever word you use is what you're going to see on the screen, and you can see I do have lots of different images that have hearts. So in order to pull this to your mat, you're just going to double click it. First I want to show you can make the area where you can see your images wider or less wide by dragging over here. So I'm going to double click my image, and as you can see, I have these hearts. Now, I don't want my heart image to be 7.9 by 8.76. I want to put this on a card, and actually, I think if I do this right, I can get 2 cards out of this. So I'm going to resize it, and what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing this corner button. The reason I'm grabbing the corner button is this keeps your dimension of your image intact. If you grab one of these side bars, and you can do this, you may want to stretch out your image, and that's going to stretch out your image that way. And if you drag up and down, you're going to stretch your image out the other way. Now say you accidentally grab that side square or that bottom square and you didn't want to do that. There is this wonderful thing called an undo button, and it is an icon across the top menu bar of your screen, and you're going to click undo, which is going to undo my making the image longer. And actually I'm going to undo again because I want to undo making that image wider. I have multiple options in resizing this image. Right now I'm just going to go over this option. So I'm going to take that corner square, and once my mouse turns into, or my cursor turns into a double-sided arrow, I'm going to click down and drag, and that is going to resize my image for me. Now my card front is 5 1/4 by 4. And this says 5.2 by 5.7, so that's still too big. And there we have 5 1/4 by 4. I think that is going to do it. So what I'm going to do now, in order to most efficiently use my paper, is I'm going to drag this into the upper left-hand corner of my mat so that I'm only using the paper that I need to use. If I drag this into the middle of my mat, and while I'm going over dragging, if your arrow or your cursor is a pointer, well, sometimes, okay, if your pointer is a pointer and not a hand, and you click and grab, you won't take your image anywhere. I always say when I give classes, make it a hand. Right now, this is not selected. This image isn't selected because there is no box around it. So you have to make a hand in order to drag that image anywhere. Sometimes it's hard to make it a hand. For this image, it seems like it's very easy to make it a hand. But again, notice, arrow, nothing's happening. I did select it, but it won't move it. It's not going to move it and drag it until I make my cursor a hand or my mouse pointer a hand, and then click and drag. Okay, another thing, these red lines, if you go across those red lines, your image will not cut past those red lines. So you want to drag it to within those red lines. And for me, that is the perfect spot. Now I could put a box around it and play with this green arrow, which if you click on it, first of all, put your cursor over the green, and when it turns into a curly Q pointer, then you're going to push down on your mouse and you can rotate the image. You can mess around with that and you can get even closer to the edge if you're being really frugal with your paper, but I'm not going to be that frugal with my paper today. Also, if I wanted to put this on an 8.5 by 11 page instead of the 12 by 12 page, if you go into your upper right hand corner and open the page setup panel, you're going to have different options for different page sizes. Here I have the 12 by 12. If I was working with or wanted to work with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which I just saw it, and then I lost it. It's called letter and I missed it. I'll go back up. So also your two, you can roll with your mouse or you can use these arrows. Normally when you have up and down arrows, your up arrow is at the top and your down arrow is at the bottom. This is a little different. Your up and down arrow are right on top of each other, so you click those. There's my letter. So I'm going to click letter, and if you notice, my piece of paper got smaller. So that's just a quick lesson in that. Okay, if I want to cut it out, I'm going to click send. This is all red, so that means that I'm going to have a successful cut. And I'm using air quotes when I say successful cut. That's if I have my blade and everything perfectly. But if your no cut was clicked and you see this light red, your image will not cut out on your machine. You want to make sure that everything that you want to cut is a pretty bright red. So I'm going to click that cut so that it will cut the whole image. There are all kinds of ways to cut out things, and I'm not going to go into that now. Again, this is supposed to be a quick tutorial just to get you through that first cut. Heat Transfer Smooth is not the material I will be using today. I want a heavy cardstock. Let's see. Sometimes I have trouble finding my cardstock. Here we go. Cardstock, textured, heavy. So, I've picked cardstock textured heavy. I am cutting with a ratchet blade, and if you look over here, it tells me that I need to set my blade to a 3, and then it auto determines what my speed is going to be, what my force is going to be, and how many passes. I can modify these things, but if you are a new user, then you might just want to leave them alone until you determine that you're comfortable making changes to those. And if my machine were attached, which it's not just yet, then I would click send after I had loaded my paper on my mat and loaded my mat to my machine. There you have it. You have your first cut. and I will go over lots of different ways to bring in images, lots of different ways to cut out your images, and vinyl and HTV and all the different things that you can cut out with your Silhouette machine. If you have any questions, please by all means leave them in the comments and I will respond to them. And if you have any suggestions for tutorials, something that you would like to see, leave it in the comment. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more. Happy New Year!